Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in this world. And welcome to our first show after completing a very successful century. We were on a 2-week break, but that was not to rejuvenate ourselves, but to strengthen ourselves to look forward to another century coming our way very soon. Welcome to Meet Menaca Celebrating You. Today, the show format is slightly different. I would just put it across as we've turned tables, right? I have been, you can say, relaxing myself at the other end of the spectrum. And one day somebody came to me and said, no, right? It's time for you to be on the hot seat. And that's what brings me back on this hot seat after a long gap. I would want to introduce the speaker for today in a slightly different way. I don't know for how many that will be different because that is what I usually use when I'm introducing. But I'm sure I'm not taking her name yet, but she would have been introduced by multiple different ways. But I hope and pray that this one is as unique as all of those. So let me introduce our speaker for today's show. For a small girl in Sri Lanka, life was a lot of fun. She looked forward to a life as bright as the morning sun. And then suddenly one day, she heard the sound of the gun. Without realizing, a day came when she had to run to a new country where she knew no one. She had to make new friends. New hearts had to be won. She became a dentist, and a lot of battles were won. Just when she thought her problems were done, she had to move again to a different land without a pun. Life has not always given her her due, but she has always stood grounded, as strong as glue. What life has in store for her, she never has a clue. Problems in life were never a few, but she found solutions way beyond one or two. A small discussion and an idea brew. A few of us joined her crew. A belief in a concept we all knew was the need of the hour and absolutely new. Over a period of time, the tribe grew, set new standards and minds its blue, and surely changed the world's point of view. I'm sure everybody has guessed by now who I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about the brain, the thought behind this beautiful show, behind this beautiful concept, and that is Menaca. Dr. Menaca, welcome to your own show. Welcome to our own show. Great to have you here, and it'll be lovely to actually grill you today.
Thank you so much, Rohan. A pleasure. I'm really humbled with your poetry. It's eloquently shows the world how talented you are, multifaceted. So thank you for interviewing me as well.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure, and it is as big a pleasure, if not more, than when we thought about, embarking on this journey, Meet Menaca, Celebrating You. It yet feels just like yesterday that we just started this show with a few of us joining in and a small thought to where we've reached today. I guess I would like to really applaud each and every team member, and especially you, for making this possible. And as we all always say, this is just the beginning. So great job, everybody. And I'm sure the audience will agree with me that this has given us enough and more food for thought than we could have asked for. So Menaca, when I think of you somehow, the first and the last word which comes to my mind is resilience. Even your book has that written brightly, boldly, right, taking the crown of the title of your book. I want to understand, what is this beautiful relationship that you share with the word resilience? What role does it play in your life?
Thank you, Rohan. And I think it's an important question to ask. I believe one story is not defined by how you win. It is how you recover when you fail. It's my firm belief, actually. And resilience is my favorite word for a reason, because it gives you the ability to bounce back after unexpected, unwarranted, and unwelcome experiences. And also it gives you the courage and makes you somehow embrace the experiences and get to the new normal with courage. And also, I think it's a word which is future-led rather than looking back. It is also has the connotation of hope, possibilities, and optimism. So I think it is a superpower worth acquiring and nurturing for everyone. So I would like to start, if I may, by asking you, the audience, some questions. Raise your hand if you have ever lost someone you truly love, ever had your heart broken, ever struggled through an acrimonious divorce, or been the victim of infidelity. Please put your hand up and keep it raised. Now, please raise your hand if you have ever lived through a natural disaster, been bullied, or been made redundant. Please raise your hand if you ever had a miscarriage, had an abortion, or struggled through infertility. Now, please raise your hand. Finally, if you or anyone you love coping or had to cope with mental illness, dementia, some form of physical impairment, or cope with suicide, please raise your hand. Now, look around you. For sure, adversity doesn't discriminate anyone. If you're alive, you're going to have to either face or have already faced through tough times. Hence, I think resilience is a word should be embraced by everyone, not only by me or you or anybody else. It is for everyone. So I would suggest everyone to pay attention and please embrace the word from today onwards.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Menaca. That means a lot. And especially coming from you, I guess the word gets an additional power. The Menaca power gets added to resilience. And as you rightly said, we all have gone through some adversity or the other. And what has kept us going or what has brought us here is that word resilience. And if we embrace that, I'm sure it is going to take us places. I would want to share one thing with the audience, that when we speak about our childhood, we usually speak about toys, gifts, birthday parties, and a lot of fun and frolic. But Menaca, you were witness to a war at home. You were witness to near and dear ones dying right next to you in dire circumstances. You were witness to a country which was torn apart. How did that mold you as a child? How did that impact you as a child? And how did you take that?
I think we all have moments in our life where sometimes suddenly the path splits, the journey changes, and we start going down paths. We think it is terrible direction, and we never anticipated and certainly never wanted. That's what happened to me at that point of life. It was awful. It was beyond imagining. If you ever find yourself in the situation where you think, there's no way I am coming back from this, I urge you to think again. I won't pretend that thinking is easy and it doesn't remove all the difficulties or mindsets or pain. But if one thing I have learned, thinking this way really does not help. So what is the alternative? Rome was not built in a way, and little by little you get there. Small steps, tiny steps, but it has to start with us. So I think if you are expecting somebody else to come and save you, you'll be waiting for a long time. That's what I understood. But I also learned life is not a bed full of roses when I was young. I learned there will be adversities. There will be challenges in life very early on. And also, it kind of gave me an insight. There are people who are good and not so good in our community. But the biggest learning out of it all was how one's action has a ripple effect on families, communities, and even continents. Look at the Ukrainian war right now at our doorstep. So this experience have taught me to be kind, compassionate, and more understanding. If I have to take away one thing from my childhood is together we thrive, alone we perish, is my takeaway.
That's quite humble of you, and that's quite great to hear, because I'm sure today when you talk about it, you talk about with so much maturity, but to be able to face that at that point of time, with an innocent child's mind would have surely been tough. And you having taken that in your stride and moved ahead, really hats off to you for that. Mostly, Menaca, I guess people say that, good beginning is half the job done. Unfortunately, I remember when I read your book, again, a beautiful book to say the least. The next chapter really overwhelmed me even further, because you started on this with this turbulent childhood. And then with the scars, you had the courage to actually move to an absolutely different land, a country that you had never set a foot in, a place in that country that, you don't know the local language, you don't know the people around, and leaving behind a family in a war-torn country. I have been a migrant. I have been in UK for a few years and now back to India. And I know how difficult it is for, in the initial years for a migrant. And you have done that coming from this kind of a background. I'm sure for most of us, it'll be a lovely learning experience if you could share with us that, how did you gather this courage, or how did you, face this kind of a situation, or what kind of strategies or things you followed, so that, I can tell you again, basis of your book, that you literally made India your second home. India takes you as their daughter as much as Sri Lanka and UK. So what made you, reach that level?
Thank you, Rohan. I think it's a really great question. Was it easy? Absolutely not. I sulked in the beginning for a few days, went into victim mode, blaming everyone and everything around me. And then one day it dawned on me, I was making my life there miserable. I think you have to be willing to try new things, sometimes subject yourself to failure, and many times to ridicule. But the alternative is even worse. So just this single shift in thinking made all the difference for me. For me, I know that the greatest lessons I have learned have all come from my failures and not my successes. So I started journaling my experiences, although I didn't call it that at the time. It helped me to have a different perspective. I think what really helped me is my teaching from my family, from my grandmom, my parents. I was always curious to know about other people and learn how they do things, where they are coming from. And that is a trait really helped me to learn a new language, not one, two new languages, without complaining, and blend into the new culture. I truly believe, looking back, every experience presents you with an opportunity to learn. So the unwelcome migration was an opportunity for me to learn new languages, understand new cultures, and make lifelong friends in another country, which I would have never been able to manage if I wasn't put in that situation. But looking at my dad, not giving up after his practice was burned down and vandalized and starting over, taught me an important lesson. Never give up, and you are what you dare yourself to be. But I'm sure each one of us has an experience. When we look back, we can see the gift in them, but it's very difficult to see at that time. What also helped is my friends and their families embracing me like their own. I think I was not only having one family, I landed up having many loving, caring families for life. So looking back, I would say, yes, it was difficult to begin with, but I wouldn't have it any other way now.
Wow, I guess the expression on your face and the voice said it all, right? About how you look back at these memories with a pain in the heart, but yet the biggest smile on your face that, yes, if you had to live this life again, you wouldn't change it a bit. So kudos to you for that, Menaca. But, your answer brings me to another question. I agree with you that each one of us has our own journey. Each one of us lives our own path and we have our own experiences. Some of us, we choose to share the same. Some of us, we don't. I mean, I have to really congratulate you that through your book, you chose to share your experiences with all of us so that we could learn from it. But at that point of time, if I clearly remember the chapter in your book, you did not share anything with your peers there in India. You put up a very strong front, and everybody felt you was somebody who was born with a silver spoon or a golden spoon. You were the apple of everybody's eye, but nobody knew the history that you've had in life. And in that short span of life, the kind of experiences or the kind of, you can say, turbulent times that you have already faced. So, I mean, we coming across, I'm knowing you from a long period of time. I know you're somebody who's very expressive, so I can easily come to know, okay, Menaca, something's wrong. So for such a person to put up such a brave front and, to basically start life anew and, not let anybody know what times have gone by and yet be cherished by everybody. How did you do that? I mean, it'll surely be a learning experience for all of us.
I think partly it is because the political landscape at the time in India was against me in a way. Because as soon as I joined, there was a political event which really changed the way people viewed people from different countries, particularly Sri Lanka. But I also felt that I can either be caught in my past or move forward, because adversity happens with different forms, as we have just noticed, to everyone in different ways. But we form beliefs in our mind, what it stands for. So I decided to make my life about the future rather than my past. That was the first thing. Because I knew I was given an opportunity. Many people in Sri Lanka were not given. It was taken away. I also wanted to create dreams, pursue them, and achieve them. And I guess I felt I will be letting down all those people if I didn't do that. I wanted to be of assistance to others and cheerleader and embrace everyone for who they actually are, regardless of any differences there may be. And I just felt if I start telling my story and expressing myself, it's not going to serve anyone, anything, including myself at that point. So I belong to accepting, non-judgmental, inclusive friends and family who made me a part of their lives and nurtured me like their own, yes. But it started from me wanting to move forward and not go backward. And also wanting to embrace the here and now, embrace their cultures, embrace the language, and become one. Because I think, again, they say, when you are in Rome, act like a Roman. Yes, there's a place for you to speak up and stand out. But I think there's also a place for you to fit in and blend in. And I think those are the reasons I think I chose not to go and open wounds and start talking about my past. At that moment, it felt right.
Wow. I mean, you really come across as someone who believes in, choosing the right time to, express the right words. And, I completely agree with you where you say that you felt at that point of time, showcasing your past would not have helped anything. It was rather, as you rightly said, more about the future. And that's exactly what makes your future today. But
True.
after this period in your life, you actually then had to suddenly, again, I wouldn't use suddenly, but yeah, to pack your bags and then come to UK, which has been your home now for so many years. So you really come across to me as someone who's a major proponent of new beginning. Here you're born, you face war around you, you shut that bag and tell, okay, now it's about new beginning, moving to India. You settle down, you blend with everybody, you make it your second home, and now you're off to your third home. I mean, Menaca, I can assure you, for most of us, we don't have the courage to manage change. We don't have the courage to move to that second home. And we yet live in the first home for a long period of time and keep cribbing about all the factors in that. So how do you actually go about making these new beginnings? How do you close, or I would say at least shelve old chapters or make them a part of your new beginnings? I would really want to know that, because I'm sure for most of us, that will be a beautiful experience to learn.
I think it is about change is inevitable. Either you can sink or you can swim. It's going to happen anyway. And at least definitely, like you said, in my life, I think plenty of new beginnings all around. For me, I saw it as an opportunity. Yes, okay. To be perfectly honest, I was happy in India. By that time, I was settled. I had a lot of families, friends. But I also had the urge, I guess, in a way, to follow the dream of my parents at that point, because they had a lot of faith in me. As an Asian woman, I have talked about it many times. Many people in front of my own eyes came to my parents, or my father in particular, and said, why would you want to waste so much of money sending a daughter to another country to study? You would be better off, spending that money. We spoke about this very thing on this show, dowry, and settle her down. And she is going to land up getting married to someone there and disappoint you. So I think I made it my life purpose to make my parents proud. And I wanted to follow, it is not the right thing. Looking back on it, it's definitely not the right thing to do. Because I think you should always follow your heart, follow your dreams, and be able to be vocal. But at that point, I thought that was the right thing to do. And yes, that gave me many more opportunities. Would I have be able to speak up like this if I was in an Asian country? Perhaps not. Would I have had the courage to come out of a marriage when I wanted to if I was living in Asia? Perhaps not. Would I have become a six-figure businesswoman if I was there? Perhaps not. So, yes, there are always is a balance of pros and cons, but it is about what you want to make yourself to be. So coming to the UK, yes, it was difficult, because even as a healthcare professional, you have to cross many unseen, unwritten barriers you have to go through to be someone and become successful. And I have also spoken about it because even when I was a trainer, many people would come to me and the conversation will flow as normal. The moment they came to know I was qualified somewhere else, it will suddenly shift. Oh, you have done very well for yourself, isn't it? Yes, I have done very well for myself, but I persevered. I put in a lot of hard work and long hours, and it's only 32 teeth wherever you live in. It doesn't change. Unfortunately, certain countries don't get a few more teeth than, other countries. It's the same. Yes, those barriers were there, but like I said before, it provided me a lot of opportunities to be vocal as a woman, and particularly as an Asian woman, like you mentioned. So I think I'm grateful for that opportunity and being able to speak up and do what I do right now. Also, I'm very aware. That's the reason I always want to go back and help women, particularly of Asian origin, to be able to do what we have been gifted in the plateau, really, at times, to be able to do and speak and train and to become whoever we want to become. And I think that is something we all have to remember, not forget the roots and pay it forward for people back home as much as here, and help everybody go through that journey and shorten the path in some ways.
Wow. I surely agree to, to begin with the first thing itself, that I've met your mom. I've had the privilege of meeting your mom. So I know where the genes come from. And having had my short conversation with her, I can assure you that she and your family is super proud of you in terms of every achievement that you've been able to reach. And I'm sure all of us here, knowing you from so long, are absolutely proud of your achievements. So yes, you've treaded the path which not many have, but you've treaded that very successfully. It's knowledge to me, as somebody who was there in UK for a while and now back to South Asia, that glass ceilings do exist everywhere. And, with your words, I again would want to appreciate that you've been able to break those glass ceilings. Sometimes it's said that the best way you can answer your critics is by your work, and you have done exactly that. So a big round of applause to you for that from my side.
Thank you.
So Menaca, coming back to the part which you said about being an Asian woman, and let me stretch it further, being a South Asian woman, and I agree our countries have, coming from India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, our countries have progressed a lot, but somehow we are yet quite dated when it comes to our thinking. So it's yet about, okay, today they've accepted a girl child, but still it is about, the end thing. What you're thinking is that, she has to get married, and then we have to plan her marriage and things like that. And I, really hats off to your father in that war-torn times to have that courage to actually, allow, and spend money on his daughter to move to another country against the social norms. And I can assure you, come back to India now since the last 3 years, things have not changed much. So I want to understand from you that being a South Asian woman, and even though now you're in another country, I'm sure you would be interacting with many other South Asian women and people from that society. What gave you the courage to actually publish your book? Or what gave you that courage to express your entire life, your entire journey in that? Because I can tell you, they say your life is an open book. Nobody better than you, because that's, once you open your book, it's Menaca's life. So what gives you that courage, or what gave you, what made you get that motivation that I want to publish a book and publish a book on my life's journey? Where do you get that inspiration from?
I think I'll begin by answering your second question first, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
By sharing my story, I hoped I can help someone turn a page, or even if someone recognizing that they don't need to be defined by their past. You don't need to go to a certain school or university, have a particular background, or have a fancy accent to chase one's dreams or make it happen. It is a great deal for me if I can impact that change on one person. So I continue to measure my progress by that more than anything else. Because I think that's what life is about, isn't it? When you get somewhere, you want to extend that hand to pull other people to where you are. And that's what it is. And yes, was I scared? Absolutely. I had spent many sleepless nights thinking how people are going to react to this, because there are many things I wrote in that book which are normally people don't want to talk to, and my family would definitely don't want me to talk about. And also, I have a child who I'm responsible for. So I had to think hard to be able to share my life story. But I think a lot of people, I have to be very transparent, who have read my book, have noticed, has shared. My first half of my book was very, very transparent. There was nothing left out. Whereas we came through to my spouses, my daughter, when other people were included, I treaded very, very carefully in those chapters, because I firmly believe, you shouldn't be talking about people where they are not given the opportunity to defend themselves, because it was very important for me. Because the purpose of the book was never about pointing fingers. It was never about criticizing someone. It was about helping somebody else to get to where I could get to. Because I had a big hiccup about my language barrier. I thought that my accent wasn't good enough. I was always had this taboo of being a divorcee and being a single mom. I was also sometimes criticized for putting my career first and being very ambitious. So given all this, I felt that it is important to share the story so that for other people, it actually doesn't feel like it's such a difficult thing to do. Because end of the day, that's what it is about, right? Because we all need other people to show the way for us. Why do we talk about Oprah Winfrey today? Why do we talk about Michelle Obama today? Because they have paved the path for many more to follow, right? So if they didn't do it, it would have been much harder for other people to come and speak about their experience and talk things. And hence, even on this platform, I always allow other people to come and share their stories openly and share their viewpoints. Yes, sometimes on this very platform, we have also been criticized for discussing certain subjects. But it is about having that courage. Yes, my psychologist once told me, it's okay to feel fear. And yes, I was fearful and I embraced that, but I also felt it was time for me to show up and show the courage and share that story, hoping that it will help someone somewhere.
Beautiful. I'm sure it's not just one, but there are many lives which have been touched by your story. And your genuine thought and purpose behind that book has been more than successful, because it has touched so many lives, and I'm sure given many women the courage to come out and showcase their feelings. So, really appreciate you for that. And as you always say, and as you put forth through your thoughts, that you take criticism with a pinch of salt, and I guess there's no better way to take that. Moving ahead, or just looking at things slightly, the way I would say, looking at it from Menaca's point of view, you face so much of criticism, you face so much of turbulence in life. But what I have noticed, and that's, pretty much well even showcased in your book, that every time you've come out as a new you. So you faced a war, you came out as Menaca 1.0. You came to India, right? Then you suddenly had to move to, you faced all the language and other barriers, and then you had to move to the UK. That was Menaca 2.0. And every time that adversity and problems have faced you, have attacked you, you face them and you've come out with a new you. And for most of us, we are not comfortable with the idea of a new us, because we feel we are comfortable in what we are. And we, that's the way we are. And life has, I feel, come a full circle. But I would still say every time you've come out victorious, you've come out with something new. And that new has only been an enhanced, improved, better version of you. So how does Menaca bring about this 2.0, 3.0 better than even Apple does with its models? How do you do that? I would really want to know from you.
Thank you so much. I think answering your first part of the question was it's resilience is rising above the need to complain about what is you are going through, explaining why you are doing it, or reacting to what is happening around you. In a way, not detrimental to other people or yourself. And also being able to see failures as stepping stones. So every time I am hitting that point, I have to reevaluate, I guess, in a way, to ask, who am I really at this point? What am I about? What is really important for me? What really matters to me? And also be able to accept that me and acknowledge that's okay. But it was equally important, I think, for me to look at the ecosystem. That's my tribe, I call it. So, how do I want to treat other people? How do I want the relationships to be? How do I want others to feel in my presence? And I think many times my core values are connection, freedom, and progress. And I think for me, deeper relationships, greater quality of life, being more satisfied has always come on the forefront. I think what mainly helped me was the next question: what skill do I need to develop? Every time I had to go to India, or I had to come here, or I had to write a book or start this talk show, I had to ask the question, what skills do I need to develop? Many times I have to work on my confidence. I had to work on the courage to speak up and also focus on the progress rather than being perfect. It wasn't easy. The last bit is, I think I always asked the question, what kind of difference do I want to make in the world? What would make this effort feel more satisfying for me and others? Will it be meaningful? And what kind of legacy I want to leave behind? I have thought about it many times. I think the only legacy I want to be able to leave is someone who left a person or place in a better form that I found in. And I think it's about resilience, is about having that willingness, isn't it, to explore new ideas, or having the courage to experiment with varied solutions, because there's always more than one solution to a problem, and being open to experiencing new things. And I think it's kind of helped me to redefine myself at every juncture. I think that's how I would put it.
I would want to add one word to your redefine is refine. Because every version of yours that I have seen, I have at least been lucky to see two of them, that has been more refined. And I'm sure, if adversity ever thinks of being a part of, your life, you're only going to get refined and redefined. I hope not, but then that's the kind of skill and power that you have. You are somebody who comes across to me as always wanting to wear multiple hats. And you've been very successful at doing so. Whether as a dentist, a very successful one at that, an author, a very successful one at that, a talk show host, a coach, the next Oprah Winfrey, as all of us call you, and which is the truth. My point to you is that, how do you define success? Or what keeps you grounded? What keeps, that hunger alive to achieve more?
I think if you don't grow, you perish. So you have to keep moving forward, and you want to be able to grow. And also you want to help everybody else around you to grow along with you, right? But success is for me nothing but being satisfied with who you are. Because I think success has many forms for many people. And it's important for everyone to recognize that. For some people, it is $1 million in the bank. That's okay. Who says no to $1 million in the bank, hey? But for some people, it is to travel the world. For some people, having good relationships, being able to raise a child, being able to take good photographs, being able to speak on on shows, or being caring for patients in the hospital and making sure their patients get the best care. Solicitors fight for their social justice. So everyone, the success is very different. But I think we shouldn't force other people to define success, which is okay for us, or which matters to us. And I think that's where the conflict happens. For me, yes, this is success for me, provided I am satisfied with what I have done. Every single day, I am a big believer of journaling. I do journal. Even when I was in India, I did journal a lot, but I never called it journaling at that moment, which really helped. For me, when I always tell, even as a dentist in the practice or when I coach trainees, I want to be able to go home and sleep peacefully thinking I've done my best. That is success for me. Provided my actions don't harm someone else. I think you do have to live life like that, because if you define your success by someone else's standards, it's always going to be a problem. And you have to always compare yourself to yourself. Am I better today than yesterday? Am I going to be better tomorrow than today? And I think that's perfectly okay for me. And being grounded, trust me, I have enough people around me to keep me grounded. Even when I passed my exams, I met my friend from dental school who we were roommates a couple of days back, and we were talking about this. You know, people were celebrating. Parents were like really going mad when they, got that certificate as a dentist. When we both got back home, my parents were like, "Yeah, I mean, that's what you went for university, right? You have to pass." That's all it was. It was, it was not a big deal. And I think I have a habit of choosing people like that who always are never reluctant to put me off and tell me, this is not the way to be done. And Rohan, actually, many of my friends, and those people who am I talking about, they definitely keep me grounded. They'll say, no, that's not the right way to do it. There's a better way to do it. You could do better, but very lovingly, in a caring way, in a nourishing way. So I think being grounded is no issues for me. From my daughter to my parents to my friends and family, everybody makes sure that I stay grounded.
Well, I guess I have a role there, but you've received a lot of, all of these success stories that you've just shared about. You also received a lot of societal approval for the same. You won so many awards in the field of service, in the field of coaching, right, as well as in your field of dentistry, to now this as a show host. Do you think this approvals from society or these awards really help in terms of taking your journey ahead, or you being able to reach more people, or where do you put them as a part of your life?
I first started thinking about these awards and accolades when I got the I think second or third award fourth award in at the Parliament 2019 when I got it. For me, what I was thinking, first of all, of course, I was very thankful. I was thrilled I got it. But more than anything else for me, if I myself, a small town girl who didn't study in English, who spoke in Tamil fully until almost till A level, until I was forced to speak, not in Tamil, and embrace English, and who have had many failures. I always say I have lots of crowns for failures. If I can get to that position to be awarded, it will perhaps give hope for other people in a similar situation to have faith and hope and see and explore these possibilities and not confine themselves to the labels they're attached with, the way they see themselves and how others perceive themselves. Because I think it's important to break those barriers and be able to come through. And I think that's what those awards are about for me.
So you use them to your benefit, but at the same point of time, not that then let them rule your roost, which is, excellently put across. Uh, if somebody asks me ever to describe you in one line, I would say strong are those people, or other, strong are not those people who just fall, but strong are those people who rise up again multiple times. So it's more about how you rise up. And for most of us, I can tell you, once we fall, many a time we don't even have the strength to rise up again. And we just keep falling further deep into that hole. I would really want to understand from you that what gives you the strength to actually rise up again? What should we gather from your experiences and your virtues of strength so that we also get that courage to rise up again from our failures, from our follies, and the like?
The fact is, by feeling lost, feeling lonely, or hitting the lowest point in my life has been the key to my transformation. So I have always been thankful to the people who supported me through tough times, giving me hope and encouraging me to grow. But I am even more grateful for those who disappointed me, discouraged me, and disapproved of me, because they gave me the driving force to make progress and shape my life into who I am today. So you should believe every situation presents you with an opportunity. Everything you now see as a milestone in my life, or rather a book or in the book, or just looking at me, followed turbulences and adversities. So my experiences during the war in Sri Lanka and migrating twice taught me how to embrace change and integrate with different communities. Overcoming linguistic barriers enabled me to believe anything is possible, regardless of age. And overcoming depression, burnout taught me personal well-being is as important as professional progress. So every experience I saw as adversity has brought growth in different dimensions, and also has made me a more empathetic, compassionate, and humble human being. So I think it is important for everyone to embrace failure and be willing to fail. Because if you are not going to embrace failure, you will never progress, because you will be fearful to even explore opportunities. That is the biggest failure, I would say, because the fear of failure will stop you from doing many things. Many people have asked, you know it, Rohan, because even when I started this talk show, and one of my friends asked when I was planning to keep the event on the 3rd of December, we are planning to have the live event or write the book. You don't know what the eventuality will be, but you rather try than not try. What is the alternative? You be stuck. You can't grow. And you will always have the regrets, because a lot of people have been interviewed by a nurse on tertiary care nurse. And the most regret people had is what they didn't do rather than what they did. So I think I have embraced that philosophy.
Wow. I mean, I completely agree to this, that one of the biggest reasons for failure is a fear of failure. I can never forget the statement now, which came across from you. And I guess the day we start embracing that, I guess half the battle is won there. And you've done that beautifully. And that, for all of us, for sure, is the biggest takeaway in terms of the strength that you used in order to come out from adversity. But I'm sure, we've all heard a lot. We've all had a lovely experience till now. And I guess I can go on and on in terms of that. And I have now met Menaca version 4.0 in that case. But just so that, we could summarize this together in short, can you please put across a few pointers or 5 takeaways for the audience today, which they can surely remember and, use them in their day-to-day life?
Sure. I will give you a bonus. I'll give you 10, Rohan.
Okay.
The 10A, so it's easy to remember. So first of all, accept. Basically, stop complaining about situations or people around you. You are part of the reason for creating this mess as anything else. So you could use that energy to focus on how to turn the situation around. Plus, the constant complaining demoralizes people around you and yourself. 2, acknowledge. Come to terms with the veracity of your position and that you have knowingly or unknowingly been part of this systematic or system of failure or heartache or anything else. So acknowledge that. 3rd, analyze. We comprehensively analyze the situation without pointing fingers by exposing the underlying problems through scrutinizing with a fine-tooth comb to identify the causes which led you to this situation. It's not about criticizing you or anybody else. Then assess. So evaluate the current situation objectively to understand the extent of the problem. And attitude, number 5. Positive mindset is equally crucial as strategic planning, whether it's your personal life or professional life. So as quoted by Maya Angelou, ask for what you want and be prepared to get it. So be careful. If you believe you will emerge from difficult circumstances, you find yourself and succeed, you will. Because I'm a living example of it at many instances. I have failed many, many times. I have failed more times than I had successes. 6, apply. Use the lessons learned in your past to explore the new opportunities and varied solutions, which would be valuable to your path to success. 7, adapt. So take control of the situation and do a course correction in the right direction. Because just because you're in that course doesn't mean you become stubborn and stay there. You can always course correct, redirect yourself. 8, acquire. Ensure you obtain the necessary skills. It's as important as anything else. Acquire the knowledge and any assistance needed to get that results by the right people, I must add. Number 9, act. Because action is not motion. Be intentional in the actions you take and be realistic about the outcomes. Because just because people are busy, they think they are doing action. It's not true, including myself. It is about taking intentional actions. And the last, but the most difficult for me as well, number 10, ask. You'll be surprised. Once you seek help, many generous people are willing to lend a hand. But it is also humbling to ask for help, and many people will help you. And the last thing I want to tell, I know that Rohan touched upon this and some question I forgot, and it's been going on in my mind that Rohan did touch this and I haven't told anything about it, about something about the doors. Because we usually spend so much of time looking at the closed doors, we fail to see the doors which are opening right in front of you. So only if you can change that viewpoint, you will be able to see those opportunities right in front of you. So, there are my tips for people who are listening, Rohan.
Brilliant. I guess, yes. I so agree to you, Menaca, that we keep hunting around at those or looking around at those closed doors when we have open doors right in front of us. So thank you so much, Menaca, for those 10 A's. I'm sure if we get an A+ in those 10 A's, we are sure to be super successful in our lives. It was a lovely experience sitting on the hot seat, Menaca. I can now understand what you must be going through in every show. And when I have such a, I don't even have the right adjective, right? Such a beautiful, ravishing, and brilliant person right in front of me, I guess words are less to describe the same. So thank you once again, Menaca, for sharing your experience, your journey, and every aspect which you have all so beautifully expressed, even in your book. Now, moving ahead, I would request Sir Professor Arukumaran to please share his few thoughts and experiences about Menaca and today's show, and of course, about the book. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for asking me, and Rohan and Menaca. So I can show that I got the book and In 2 days' time, I read it because it was so thrilling to read. I have a few comments. Interestingly, Menaca wanted me to comment. So I'm going to say that, Menaca, you put the title as Resilience Learned. I think there is a genetic material there because it's not only learned, because your father had the practice burned down, but he still was able to continue practicing. And the next thing must have been his house would have got burnt. So he was a courageous man, and he showed you the resilience. Your mommy, your grandmother, her husband died at a young age because of a penicillin anaphylactic reaction. She managed to raise the family. So she showed resilience in a big way. So you have, I don't know whether you learned and imbibed what they had or whether you had a genetic material transferred through. So learned might be true in some way, but it is not purely a credit to you, but also I pay tribute to your father, your mother, and your mommy or your grandmother, because they have done wonderfully well. Now, going through the history, it's quite interesting to know that the real history starts from your adolescent age when you went to Batticaloa to study science. I had some connection at that time. I can connect because Dr. Manos Sabaratnam, who was at the teaching faculty, she used to write to me, and we had the real communication at that time. And you had this great walk, difficult walk from Batticaloa to Trincomalee. You had your experiences, having blood spilled all over you, and then you reached Trincomalee. So you had one difficult experience, which was followed by your displacement to Bangalore to study dentistry, then the move to the UK to find new life, to get established, then difficulty in learning because you couldn't get a place, attachment, then passing the exams, husband getting married, child with so many difficulties. So you had one after the other, but then when you established in practice, then somebody swindled your money. So that was another blow. So you have actually worked your way through many difficulties, both physical, mental, emotional difficulties. But as you rightly said, you are resilient, but also you are looking at the next step. So I would like to add that self-pity erases you out of the world, so that you didn't show self-pity, which is actually quite an important thing because you didn't really drown in tears and look at the life in a different way, but you are looking at self-confidence. So you have a lot of self-confidence in yourself. That teaches all the audience and the others that you must have self-confidence. And self-confidence means not only working in your comfort zone, but you try to move out of your comfort zone. And to move out of your comfort zone, you have to study more, you have to learn more, and therefore you acquire new skills. But that also brings stress because moving out of your comfort zone brings stress. And that brings us to the issue about success and happiness. Now, the question was raised by Rohan saying, what do you mean by success? And I think you put it in a very simplistic way, but I would say happiness is what success brings. Because if you achieve something and you are successful in an exam, that brings happiness. But it shouldn't end there. It should continue in trying to serve your company, your community, your people around you, and you should show some compassion and not only service, but sacrifice. Give what is lacking for yourself. So you are shown in your life story there that you have had committed to service and sacrifice, because that is the one which should be rewarded. Everybody goes for service. I go to work in the morning at 9 and switch off at 5. But above and beyond is the question. So you have shown that very clearly in your moved out of your comfort zone many times. You have had self-confidence yourself. You have prepared yourself. Planning is power. And you have really excelled in whatever you did. So I think it's a lot of life lessons to be learned by listening to you and by reading. And I think you have achieved so much in such a short time. But I would also like to remind you that we also pay tribute to your father, mother, and your grandmother. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Arul. 100%. I would, because the whole book was dedicated to my grandmom, as you could see. And if my parents and my grandmother and my teachers and mentors didn't show me the path, I definitely would be where I am today. So thank you so much. And really humbled and honored for you to comment on the book. And thank you for reading it so quickly as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure to hear your thoughts on the book. Would anybody else also want to comment about the book or share some thoughts on Menaca before we move to announcing our next speaker and the Q&A? Mr. Ratnam Nityanathan, sir, if you could just share your comments.
Hello, Menaca. I was spellbound. I was shocked to know the amount of trouble you have undergone in this path. And I'm really appreciate the way you have handled all the difficulties that you have come through. Incidentally, I happen to know one Dr. Pothalingam, who in the early 60s, late 70s, I don't know whether in any way connected to you. When I came to this country, that is one point. But I have noted all the 10 A's that you have mentioned. And certainly this will, it is I don't know how you compose all the 10 A's. And I don't think any woman should face that type of life that you have undergone, but you have come out of it glowingly. So wish you all the best for your future. And I'm waiting for the day I will get your book and have a thorough reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Niti. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nityanathan. Now moving to Dr. Navratnam. Sir, if you could just share your thoughts.
Thank you, Menaca and Professor Kumaran for your contributions. Menaca, I've been impressed by your smile and the way you present this show. And I often join you because of the way you present yourself. Now, when you say your story, it is really very moving. And I have been thinking how resilient you must have been to go through all this. We all get some mishaps, setbacks, and I always think of Yoga Swami, my guru, who said everything was destined, predestined, or Ella Mudinda Karyam, that is all over. But although we put back our sorrows and difficulties, it is when we read or hear such a story, it's very moving. And I must say that in my life, I have not gone through anything like yours. And it's a great story and it's a great success. And I should read your book and I will order one today. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have said what I have to say. And thank you, Menaca. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Navratnam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Navratnam. That's exactly why we call her the smiling chocoholic dentist. So I guess since we've heard the thoughts and comments from our dear guest, I guess now it's time to introduce our speaker for our next session. So our speaker for our next meeting would be Helena Holrich. Menaca, if you could share.
Helena Holrich will be speaking about how to collaborate effectively. She is a trainer and she is also a business owner and she collaborates very effectively. I have known her for many years personally as a coach, as a mentor, and also she has multiple businesses. And I think I really believe collaboration doesn't come easily for many people from particular backgrounds. I thought, why not bring someone who can teach us how to collaborate effectively and grow everyone? As they say, you travel faster if you go alone, and together you go far. And so I thought I will ask Helena Hollerich, who is the collaboration queen, to come and speak about how to collaborate effectively.
That's brilliant. So we surely have another ace up our sleeve. And as they say, you can surely increase your net worth by increasing your network. And I'm sure Helena is the perfect person to guide us for the same. Thank you so much for sharing that, Menaca. And now I guess there are already a plethora of questions ready. But to all our Facebook audience, we'll now be logging off. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. I'm sure you learned a lot through Menaca's journey. Please go ahead and read her book if you haven't done that already. Having read that twice, I can tell you it's surely a gem. And if you ever want to understand, right, what life has in store for you and how do you face that, there is no better way than reading that book. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Thank you, Menaca, for a lovely experience sharing today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for people who are listening to Facebook. Unless we see you same time, same place next week. Stay safe, be happy, and keep smiling.